You know what's really difficult to find on the internet, including YouTube, is content around thin and light laptops under the context of it's going to be used for work purposes. So applications in the Microsoft Office suite, and of course a browser. Let's just say Edge for the sake of simplicity. It's really hard to find that. Like most of the content on YouTube, as you guys probably know because you had to go through all of it before you even found this, it's about content creation, right? Videos, photos, all that stuff, which makes sense because that's what a lot of these independent content creators are doing on YouTube that end up with the gear that you're watching a video about. But even online, like, tech journalists, they're not really talking too much about how does the laptop function in the business environment, unless they're going to go super deep and get into Thinkpad territory. Nothing wrong with ThinkPads, more on that in a moment. But I want to talk about my journey and what I'm trying to do, because it's my channel, so I get to do that. I've been looking for a thin and light laptop for work, something that's going to have at least 8 hours of battery life, preferably up to 12. I mean, more would be better, but right, that doesn't really exist unless you go the Mac OS route with the M1 processor, specifically the M1 Pro. I tried the M1 Pro. I had it for 8 months. I had to get one because of a customer. I don't have that customer anymore, so now I don't need it. But I didn't hang on to it because I'm not comfortable in Mac OS, first of all. I think it's like driving on the wrong side of the road. And then also, it was underpowered. You couldn't open Microsoft Office application, like a Word document, for example, in under 5 or 6 seconds. It was so slow. I tried multiple because I thought maybe I had a dud. I tried wiping them, I did all these optimization techniques. I turned off a bunch of things like OneDrive. It's just not going to work. Just doesn't work. Now, you could go with the M1 Max, or whatever it's called, the new 14-inch and higher. I was able to test one of those at a Best Buy, and they worked. They opened Office apps pretty quickly, 1.5, 2 seconds. But those are $2,000, and to start, and you only get a 0.5 terabyte SSD plus. I shouldn't have to pay that kind of money just to open a freaking Word document in 2 seconds. So okay, so let's say you're like me, right? You're looking for something thin and light and portable with good battery life, and also has good performance. It'll open an Office application in a couple of seconds, and it's going to have the I/O that you need, HDMI specifically, maybe a legacy USB-A port. Gosh, it's a legacy now. I guess that makes sense. It's been around for a long time. And you want a nice display, something with a sizable keyboard deck, but not so large that you can't use it on a food tray on an airplane. Now, I haven't been on an airplane in a couple of years, but I used to go almost every week. I think that will probably come back at some point for me, and so I'm looking for something that will also consider the airplane constraint. But mostly, I want something for a few hours a day, because I spend most of my time on my desk, and when I go to like a cafe or a business meeting, I don't want to lug around a power brick and then try to identify a power source. Okay, so all that out of the way, the journey I've been on is documented to a degree on my channel, although I don't frame it that way because I didn't realize I was on this journey. But I'm trying to find something. So, the laptop I'm using right now that meets almost every bit of criteria is this Razer Book 13 for 2021, specifically the 2021 model that came out just a couple of months ago. This has an updated keyboard. It's a very good keyboard. It's not perfect, it's not ThinkPad level in my opinion, but it doesn't have any of the issues that last year's model had. It's a 16:10 aspect ratio, 13.4-inch display. It does have incredible I/O, some of the best I/O in the business when it comes to ultra-portable devices. Full-size HDMI, Thunderbolt 4 on both sides, we'll get the other side in a moment, and a micro SD card slot, which I don't use, but some people might, and it's there, which is awesome. There's that other Thunderbolt, your legacy USB-A, and a headphone jack. This also props up a bit in the back when you open the lid, so the keyboard is easier to use. Doesn't make a huge difference, but it's there. It has a Windows Hello for logging in. It has a really good anti-glare coating on the glass display. It is touch, but I don't care too much about touch. And the trackpad is incredible. I didn't realize how good the trackpad was until I tried out this laptop below it, which is the XPS 15. I've never owned a Dell laptop before. Dell doesn't work with me, so I don't get them to review or anything like that. But I've been considering this laptop because I feel like it meets all those other requirements that I wanted except for the I/O side. Now, it is bigger at 15 inches, but the bezels are so thin that you're not going to really notice the size. It's also very light. It's only 4 pounds. That Razer Book is 3 pounds, but it's a heavier Ultrabook. More on that in a moment. In here, you get 2 Thunderbolt ports, a full-size SD card reader, a headphone jack. On the other side, 2 more USB-C ports with Thunderbolt. I have to make one correction. This is a Kensington lock, by the way. These 2 are Thunderbolt. This one is just USB-C. Sorry about that. But this does have power delivery, so you can charge from there. I noticed the charging was really slow. Here it was faster on this side. And the power brick is respectable. It's 130 watts. It's not too much bigger than the 65 watt that comes with the Razer Book and something like a Thinkpad Carbon Gen 9, the X1 Carbon, which I have ordered. Now, I've reviewed the X1 Carbon in the past, but I haven't had a chance to actually drive it for multiple weeks. You know, when you get these review units, just out of respect, you don't want to hang on to them for too long. And they're not necessarily the configurations that you would buy. So, more on that in a second too. Now, the Dell does ship with the super small and super light dongle, so you can connect over USB-C, and now you have HDMI and legacy USB-A. Now, it's not ideal to carry this around because it's just another thing, but it at least include it. So Dell recognizes that you need something like that. Okay, well, when you get a chance to daily drive a device and you're really trying to fit a certain requirement, like the ones that I've outlined at the beginning here, you start to notice the things that you can't live with, or you'd rather not live with, right? So there's 2 things about the Dell, 2.5, that I just, hey, it's my money. I get to do what I want with it, and I'm not gonna live with it, all right? The first is opening this device. It is a one-hand open if you can find the best spot to open it with. Now, on the front, there is no lip. None. There's a status indicator, but there's no lip. So you can't really grab it. You have to use a countermeasure by putting your fingers on the top. At least that's what's worked for me. And then you can open it up. I know that looked seamless, but believe me, it's not. Okay, that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is the trackpad. Now, I've done a lot of research on the Dell line, and I learned that last year's model, which was the first time they redesigned the XPS 15 with the 16:10 aspect ratio, it got a lot of YouTubers' attention, but they had wonky trackpads where they were loose. Now, this one I wouldn't call it loose as compared to what I saw in those videos where you could just kind of put your finger on it and it would rattle, but I will call it overly sensitive. Just the faintest amount of weight will click. So I had a lot of unintended clicks, not false clicks. It was properly registering, but it's not what I wanted. I didn't intend to click. And so there were times where I would, I'm reading something and I would put my finger on the trackpad with the intent of gliding the cursor to a specific spot. And what would happen is it would do a click, hold, drag a bunch, grab a bunch of content, and now suddenly I'm moving things around the screen. I'm highlighting content that I didn't intend to highlight, and it didn't happen a lot. It happened 1 in every 30 times, but that's actually a lot when you think about it. So it was annoying. I didn't want that to be the case, so I can't live with it. That's reason number 2. Okay, reason number 3 is the display. The display is actually really good. It's super bright, and it's a good size. It's legible. But the problem with the display in the version that I bought, and I should be more clear, I apologize. This is the i7 16 gigs of RAM, half terabyte SSD with a 15.6 inch 16:10 aspect ratio display. The resolution is 1920 by 1200, which is the same resolution in that Razer Book 13 I showed you earlier, which is also an i7. The display on this, it is bright. The colors are great. All that stuff is good. But it's just a little too low on resolution. I obviously would not recommend 4K. That's overkill for this, which is the only other option they have. If this were Quad HD, it would be perfect. It would be absolutely perfect. So that pixel density is just a little too low on this device. So that's that half reason. I could certainly live with it. If I had never used the Razer Book 13, I maybe wouldn't have noticed. But yeah, that is that other reason. So this is going back, despite being a nice PC for a lot of people, it's not for me. Okay, so the next thing is the Legion 5 Pro. So another part of me thought, well, I'll just roll with the Legion 5 Pro because it's an awesome gaming laptop, it's Quad HD, and it's got all the ports in the whole wide world that you could ever want, and it's got awesome distribution of those. But the problem with this as a daily driver is the battery life. Of course, the size is an issue as well. It's very thick and heavy. It's over 5.5 pounds, but it has a lot of power. The cool thing about this is the display. The display is just awesome. It's Quad HD. It's a full 16 inches, so there's plenty of space. You can see everything. but there's no HDR when it's not plugged in. You can't change that from what I've figured out. And the battery life, even with all of my tweaks, the only thing I haven't done that I want to do is disable turbo boost, or whatever it's called on the AMD processor. This is a Ryzen based machine. Once I do that, I'll have a better sense of battery. Maybe I'll get another 10% out of it. But right now I'm getting about 3 hours of battery life, which is just a no-go, as I've discussed earlier. Although the keyboard is amazing, the trackpad is quite good. I love having a numpad because I use that from time to time, in Excel. So that's unfortunate, and that's why this one has to go. There's also no Windows Hello or fingerprint, which is fine. You have to use a pin. But when you have something like this Razer Book or that Dell, and you just lift it up and then bam, you log in, it's pretty special. One thing else I should mention about the Dell that I forgot to is that the webcam is just atrocious. Like, I literally took a picture of myself in decent lighting, sent it to my buddy, and said, hey, what does this remind you of? Maybe the Game Boy camera? He totally agreed. It was that pixelated and terrible. I did the firmware update. I enabled HDR. It barely made a difference, if anything at all. Definitely not a perceivable difference. So here's where I'm at. I thought this would be a good update video. Here's where I'm at. I've ordered a Thinkpad X1 Carbon Gen 9. Same specs as this, 1165 G7, 16 gigs of RAM soldered on, although it does have a 1 terabyte SSD, and it has an additional slot, by the way, not M.2, but it's a what is it, 270 or something like that. Anyway, it's a smaller SSD slot that you can put another SSD if you want to. And it has the same resolution, same size screen, but it's a matte finish, which I did appreciate on the Dell. It just didn't have the pixel density I wanted. So, and it's only 2.5 pounds with awesome I/O, including HDMI, which I really want. So I'll come back with an update once I have that. It might be a couple of weeks, plus I need to spend some time with it. I'll do a head-to-head with the Razer Book, and we'll make a final decision. That's the journey today. Appreciate the time. Cheers.